With over 1 million professional members, the Internet Marketing Association is a force to be reckoned with. This is I Am a Leader, the official podcast of the world's largest association of Internet marketers. Join Dominic Sirianni, CMO, as he sits down with inspirational leaders, delves into the research lab, shares career opportunities from IMA partners like Microsoft, Oracle, and Adobe, and gives you the insights you need to perform at your best. Here's your host, Dominic Sirianni.
Well, thank you all for joining today's webinar. My name is Sinan Knatzis, Chairman of the Internet Marketing Association and today's webinar moderator. In the next hour, we'll be sharing research that has been made available after polling our global members on the use of imagery, visual content, and the conversion of this growing medium into revenue for businesses worldwide. Just by way of background, the IMA is now one of the world's largest business organizations with over 1.3 million professional members, 1,000 members of our International Executive Council, 500 members of our Women Leadership in Internet Marketing, and over 200 groups formed in cities all over the world. We just ended our flagship conference in Las Vegas, where over 1,000 business leaders converged over 3 days around topics and innovations in Internet marketing, including virtual reality, IoT, and image analytics by companies like Curelate. Today's distinguished panelists include Matt Longi, CMO of Curelate, as well as Tori Tate, Director of Content and Community for the Grommet. Throughout today's webinar, I'll be encouraging you to use the Q&A tab at the bottom of your screen to ask our presenters questions which will be addressed at the end of today's session. With that, let's go into our agenda. Today, we're going to be covering a very important topic that I'm looking forward to, which is the state of visual commerce, a market study overview. Again, prior to this webinar, we polled our members across the nation and around the world on the use of visual commerce. We're going to talk about overcoming challenges, actionable takeaways, and then really turn it over to you, our audience, to ask some questions. So in our next slide, we'd like to kind of go over some of those marketing concerns and trends. So when we polled our membership, we asked them, what are the largest concerns facing you from a digital marketing perspective? Top one is obviously leveraging big data. As companies have been putting so much time and energy into expansion of technology and catching all this data, how do we leverage it? How do we predict it? How do we utilize the text and images and the videos and really work this into our enterprises? How do we accurately identify our target audiences and work with them? And how do we create fresh and innovative content? And different industries and every SIC code can actually define innovative content as something different. And I think today, having Tori from the Grommet to really kind of talk a little bit about that will address one of these big concerns. Some of the trends that we're seeing clearly are around the Internet of Things. As Matt Longi has alluded many times, there's billions of new devices and nodes that are coming onto the Internet, and that's going to create a whole new platform around imagery and content that organizations are going to be able to use and predict. Programmatic is also another, latest trend that we'll kind of get into, and predictive analytics among mainly the Fortune-based businesses, Fortune 1000. So really using that data to better predict paths and trends happening within your organization. And when a lot of marketers will ask me, hey, what are your predictions going into 2016? There's 4 that really kind of come to mind. One is virtual reality. As Facebook and Google and other major pioneers in the space have made a significant investment to virtual reality. I think as digital marketers, it's very important for us to look and observe and see how VR is going to be playing into the daily lives of businesses. If you can think about architecture or hospitality or being able to look at schematic drawings and things like that in very visual 3-dimensional methods, I think a lot of that is going to be taken to the internet, and there's going to be things that marketers will be able to address in VR. Predictive analytic applications like Curelate and being able to understand the differentiators of paths and trends is something that continues to grow, and that's an area that a lot of big giants in the industry are looking at. The adoption of the Internet of Things, just that is happening across many nodes and devices, not just in your home, but in your business and your workplace environment. A lot of these devices are now connected to the internet. What does that mean for your business? And then content, remaining the top differentiator. And today's webinar is really to address one of the top pieces of content on the internet, which are the billions of images that are loaded on a daily basis, whether it's through social or through web. This has become a medium that continues to grow, and we're going to kind of talk a little bit about that today. And one of the questions we asked in our survey is, do you agree with the following statement? Is there an increasing amount of pressure on you to show return on investment on visual content? And 77% of marketers agreed that there is that pressure to show an uptick in ROI around visual content. So we used to be so fixated on websites and text and such, but now through all these cell phones and nodes that are available for us to simply take a picture and share, a lot of these new mediums, Snapchat, Instagram, and such, are becoming platforms that are really driving that increased pressure on ROI for visual content among marketing professionals. And then in sort of a wrap up here, one of our questions that we asked is, what are the 3 biggest challenges as a marketer is affecting you when it comes to visual commerce? And the top 3 was really choosing the imagery that resonates best with the audience, developing new and creative content, and then measuring that ROI. So that way, marketers like yourselves can show that within your organization. And with that, I sort of conclude my opening remarks and would like to transition it over to our partner, Matt Longi, who is not just the Chief Marketing Officer of Curelate, but is truly one of the pioneers and patriarchs of digital marketing. And he spent a lot of his career in this industry, and he's a trendsetter and someone we're proud to have on our board at the IMA. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Matt Longi.
Great, thanks, Sinan. You're very kind for those words, and certainly not well-deserved, but I'll take it anyway. But thanks, everyone, for joining. Matt Longi here, CMO of Curelate. And what I wanted to do is walk you through 4 takeaways from our study, and what you as a marketer, as a business person, can do to overcome some of the obstacles that Sinan has shared with you that we found from the market study. So let's get right into this. So the first thing here that I want to share with you is marketers are feeling the heat. So this is our first takeaway. In fact, getting into the data here, the stats that we unveiled in this market study, they're absolutely feeling the heat. The significant majority of marketers are feeling pressure to show a return on investment on visual marketing, or what I would call the new ROI, a return on image. And you're seeing major roadblocks to your path to success. So let's see what that looks like. One of the challenges that 54% of marketers doubt or are not confident in their ability to measure or report on conversions. So as we study what marketers say and what they're telling us, what they're also showing is that when it comes to measuring ROI, it's not just about talking engagement in the forms of likes and comments. Marketers and the visual efforts that they're making want to see those reflected in clicks, conversions, traffic, and revenue. So as you look at the KPIs that your team is trying to use to determine the success of your marketing campaign, it is about clicks, it's about conversions, but it's also about traffic and revenue. So your CMO, your board of directors, your executives are ultimately looking for understanding on how your investment in visual marketing is performing. One company that is doing this quite well is Z Gallery. This is a Curelate client that is been using Curelate to drive campaign conversions with visibility into their top performing images. So they're a great example of a brand that they've effectively measured campaign conversions. They noticed earlier this year that fans were so engaged with their catalog mailings that these fans would actually photograph the catalogs and then post those images to Instagram. So to leverage these attributes, the team at Z Gallery had put together a multi-channel campaign to drive catalog subscriptions and then bridge that communication between the online and the offline fans. And within just a few weeks, they saw some amazing results, including a 24% lift in user-generated content submissions. So essentially, they're kind of teaching and training, if you will, the end consumer. And they, of course, grew followers on Instagram, and they saw a significant increase in Instagram impressions across those efforts. So really interesting feedback from what we saw with Z Gallery. The second major takeaway from our study is that marketers are failing to tailor their creative, and this is a major roadblock. Today, there are 2.6 billion images shared each day, 2.6 billion images shared. So there's a lot of noise for you to cut through to effectively engage your consumers as a marketer. And in fact, 78% of you as marketers agree that that you're currently sharing the same images across every or most channels on which you are active. Now the challenge with this is that it's not always, you're not going to get the same result taking one image and applying it to a different channel. So as we take a look at this, while certain pieces of content will work well across the same channel, it's important to remain relevant. One example is a consumer might browse Pinterest for ideas on outfits to wear, say for Halloween or Thanksgiving or the holidays, but they're probably not doing that on Tumblr. So it's really important to think about what is the medium, what's the platform, what is the channel, whether it's display or email or across social channels, Facebook versus Pinterest versus Tumblr versus Instagram. It's really important to have that context. Now one example of a brand that's doing this really well is Lilly Pulitzer, and they've mastered tailoring their creative to the appropriate channel. So last year, the folks at Lilly noted that their daily Instagram posts of 5x5 prints were receiving a flurry of engagement across the platform. And they relied on the analytics within Curate to come to this conclusion. They decided to create a hardcover book full of these beautiful images. So naturally, they made the announcement about this book on Instagram, letting all their Instagram fans be the first to know about this new product. And then they used Instagram via Curate and our Like to Buy solution to drive traffic back to their site once the book went on sale, went up for sale on Black Friday. As a result of this, they saw 400% more traffic from Instagram on that day as compared to their daily average. So they knew that these prints were hit on Instagram, and they completely relied on that channel to not only continue to engage their fans with them, but actually create an entire new product, a new offering around these prints, and then use Instagram as a driver of revenue. So really, really interesting story there. A third primary takeaway, things you should think about. Visual content is underperforming. And what we found is that marketers aren't just utilizing visual content to its full capacity. In fact, just 11% of marketers believe that their team is leveraging images very effectively across the entire breadth of their marketing channel. So let's take a look and see what this actually looks like. A small portion of you believe that your images are efficiently or are being sufficiently used in emails, advertising, and e-commerce. And as we looked at this, just 11% of you are thinking that or seeing that your ad creative is being used effectively. Only 8% believe that images are being used in emails effectively, and then another 8% across the website. So what this means is that there's really a number of key challenges in understanding, again, the return on that investment, the value that you're able to derive across, in particular, these three channels. One client of ours that is doing this quite well is the Grommet, and with that, I'm very pleased and excited to introduce Tori Tate, who serves as the Director of Content and Community at the Grommet, and she's a great friend and partner with Curate, and she's going to talk about how they've been able to design an image-driven business model at the Grommet. So with that, Tori, it's all yours. Thank you for joining.
Thanks, Matt, for that introduction. Yes, again, I'm Tori Tate. I am the Director of Content and Community here at the Grommet, and if you're not familiar, the Grommet is a discovery platform and marketplace for new and innovative products. And so one of the uniting factors in all of our marketing efforts are, in fact, the strong visuals we use, from display advertising to developing strong email campaigns, and of course to anything we do in social media. We rely on data and the analytics of our images to influence each of these areas. So let's walk through them. So we'll start with email. One ongoing way we drive clicks in emails is that we regularly show an image and reference the fact that it's the most trending image across social or the top shared image from our site. It's a way to put a spotlight on what everyone else is digging in our community. And we know that this type of social proof messaging does really, really well for us. And because of that, it is definitely an ongoing strategy you'll see in all of our emails. The next bucket is advertising. So for ads, we're interested in slicing data from the Curate platform to determine which photos people are clicking on. We want to know what images are driving clicks. And it's that strong signal again that people will click on an image. So why not use that exact image in our advertising efforts? Our hypothesis is that these images will then perform really well in ads. And in fact, through our A/B testing, it's always proven to be true. We have seen that choosing these socially driven images in our ads results in a 50% higher click-through rate, which is really exciting for us. And we're doing the same exact thing on Pinterest. You know, we're really amping up our ad spend on Pinterest, especially as an e-commerce site going into the holiday season. And it makes so much sense for us to promote top images we see trending in Curate already. You know, no marketer wants to waste money testing ads. We can already see exactly what images are popular and trending on Pinterest, which our community are engaging with, and we use those images first. Again, we're first looking for that strong social signal that the image is compelling. And it's pretty safe to say that we never create an ad anywhere without these analytics being the first lens we use. And then moving on to Instagram, you know, we're also relying on Instagram to help us gauge the types of photos that are resonating with our audience. Before, when we were first on Instagram, before we integrated the Curate Like to Buy solution, we were just posting images to Instagram with no real idea or way to track what images would actually compel someone to go from Instagram feed to our e-commerce site. We didn't have an idea of what types of product images compelled people to click through. But now we can start looking at particular themes within our imagery we're posting on Instagram. So for example, we've noticed that when we look at the data in our Like to Buy analytics, we can see that when hands are in a photo, it does really well versus an image with a face in a photo. Hands in a photo tend to do better also than just a product with no hands. So it's finding that secret sauce of the imagery that works the best for us that is really important. So looking overall, almost every team in our company uses the data I pull from the image analytics to form some type of decision in their area. So for example, the team that manages our on-site merchandising, when they're looking to refresh a category page within our e-commerce site, they look at the report of most trending images that month and use that as a lens as they're taking into account the merchandising on site. Our photography team is looking really closely at what photos were most engaging, and that influences what type of new creative they'll shoot. And then back to that trending data, from a merchandising perspective, we often get really excited when we're able to see older products that say we've launched a year or two in the past start to retrend and become really popular again across all of our channels. It signals to us that these are particular products or themes that people are thinking about right now, and it really does help us inform merchandising and marketing decisions across our whole company in a much smarter way. So as I've demonstrated here, we can really confidently say that visual strategy is in fact supporting our overall marketing goals across our entire business here at the Grommet.
Great, that's fantastic, Tori. Thanks for sharing that. Really amazing insights as to how your strategy overall is the same, but how you're implementing that differently across those different channels, which is really fantastic. So definitely, thank you for sharing that. I think one of the things that we also want to share with you is our last takeaway here is around mobile, and some of the roadblocks that marketers are seeing when it comes to mobile. In fact, visual marketers are in fact lagging when it comes to mobile. About a third of marketers are currently utilizing mobile to reach consumers with visual content, as you can see here. Mobile is ubiquitous. I can never leave my house without a mobile device, as I'm sure many of you are the same way. But the challenge is that you feel your visual content is weakest within the mobile commerce environment. In fact, as we surveyed our marketers across the IMA network, 63% felt that social was actually very strong in its image-based content, in its visual content. But if you look there at the bottom, mobile commerce and apps in particular, the mobile environment, frankly, is weakest when it comes to expressing your business, your brand, your products and services through the mobile channel. Frankly, this is a missed opportunity because mobile has surpassed desktop in e-commerce site traffic share. And this is a study done by Branding Brand as delivered through eMarketer. This is done just this past June. So they looked at kind of their mobile commerce index in May of 2015, and what you can see here is between May of 2014 and May of 2015, smartphone and tablet versus desktop, mobile is actually exceeding U.S. e-commerce site traffic share as a device category versus desktop. So the conversion rates on mobile, while they may still trail desktop, the conversions are growing year over year. So this is really important to consider as you're building out your strategy when it comes to how do we effectively engage with visual content? What is the imagery that we should be delivering through mobile? And I think there's a couple platforms and channels that certainly have gotten it right. Instagram, which is another great partner of Curelate, is doing this well, and a number of our brands that we work with are doing this well on Instagram. In fact, Forever 21 has done a great job converting Instagram interactions into on-site traffic. So as we know, Instagram, it's a mobile dominant platform. Forever 21 is a popular retailer, and they essentially have been able to get a flurry of engagement on mobile channels, but they wanted to tie revenue to their efforts. So what they did is they worked with Curelate and used our Like to Buy solution, and that garnered them a 19% increase in mobile page views, a 24% increase in time spent on site, and an amazing 80% click-through rate from Instagram. So here's a great example of a retailer that's really killing it on Instagram and really figured out how to engage their audience through the mobile platform, in this case via Instagram. Now let's talk about what you can do to overcome these roadmaps that we presented here over the course of this webinar. What are some of the actionable takeaways you need to think about? Well, the first one, number one, developing new creative content by sourcing imagery. Now, as you see on the slide here, what you can see from left to right, the very typical accurate style photograph of the product on a white background, that's what we call brand stock. Pretty much any retailer or any brand has this style of imagery, and it can work very effectively. However, what we're seeing is from a conversion perspective, from a traffic and engagement and revenue perspective, more and more consumers, particularly the millennial audiences, are really engaging with brand editorial as well as user-generated content. So think of these as the very authentic style, editorial style photos. So here's these boots shown on the woman. In this case, the brand editorial might be a model in a shot, photo shoot that they've done. With user-generated content, this just may be one of your consumers that went out and bought this pair of boots and laid it out on the floor with an outfit and said, hey, look at this great outfit I bought for the fall. You're also getting imagery from your partners. So if you're a retailer, your brand partners, the suppliers of your products, are also doing their own photo shoots and laying those out in certain ways, whether they're authentic style imagery or whether it's more accurate style photography. And that's something that you want to take into consideration. And then lastly, and in some cases very importantly, is the bloggers and the influencers. These are the folks that are out there. They have significant followings. They have a great voice on behalf of your brand. So you want to be thinking about, how do I engage the imagery that they're creating? How do I measure and understand, and then ultimately connect that back to commerce? So let's talk about that next here. As you look at our next key takeaway, and that is choosing imagery that resonates by tapping into experiences. Just this, in the past few months, we also did a study here at Curelate and produced a guide around marketing to millennials. So if you look at what is engaging with audiences today, in particular with millennials, and it's really all about millennials and consumers today are looking for experiences. It's not necessarily about the product on the white background, it's about the product in context. So here you see a number of examples from some great retailers and brands that we work with: Rebecca Minkoff, Alex and Ani, Frank and Oak, Louboutin, and Bonobos. Looking at these different photographs that they publish through Instagram, they publish on their own product display pages, their PDPs. What they're finding is that this style of imagery is really resonating, and the analytics and the data prove that. You can actually go into the Curelate dashboard, look at the analytics, and understand how these images are actually driving engagement. It's actually driving performance by leveraging these experiences into click-throughs that are driving traffic and revenue and ultimately product sales back to your site. So that's the second major takeaway. The third one, Measure your ROI, your return on imagery, or your return on investment in your visual commerce by directly tying imagery to commerce. One of the challenges here is that if you're sharing imagery that resonates with your audience, you really want to tap into experiences, and by tapping into those experiences, you can now directly tie this to commerce. So we provide at Curate a number of solutions that help you tie, in this case, this image of the woman wearing the leather jacket and the sunglasses and the jeans. We can tie this directly back into your product catalog and help you identify and connect those images back to commerce. So now when someone is perusing, say, your blog, or they're out on Instagram, we can help you create those connections directly back to a product purchase experience. We've essentially connected content to commerce. We've turned pictures into points of sale. Ultimately, we've helped you unlock the power of your pictures so you can create commerce opportunities from them, irrespective of what channel that you're propagating them through or displaying them through. It could be social, as we talked a lot about Instagram or Pinterest or even Tumblr, blogs, apps, first and third party apps, e-commerce, email, display advertising. Here's another great way that you can actually leverage Curate to take user-generated content and then display that through a display ad, a retargeting display ad to again drive greater conversions because the consumer is seeing a more authentic style photo. Going back to email, we actually just announced a partnership with Movable Ink, in which Movable Ink is an email technology provider. They can now serve up very resonant imagery, very authentic user-generated style imagery that drives greater conversion and traffic and ultimately revenue, and we have data that shows that as well. So really, really great things that you can do here when you're starting to think about how do I create this image and almost, ostensibly turn it into a point of purchase or a point of sale. And then lastly, last key takeaway here, and then we'd love to open it up to your questions and thoughts from all the attendees here. Last major point is, let's see here, next slide. Oh, that was it. That was our final point. So with that said, we're excited to open this up to your questions, and either myself or Tori or Sinan would be happy to get any questions you have at this time. So let me turn it back to Sinan, and you can drive the Q&A here. Sinan.
Thank you, Matt and Tori. This was awesome information and thought leadership for the community. With over 200 people registered for today's webinar, we're very excited to see so many people turn out, and I think we can all kind of use this within our respective organizations. At this time, I'd like any attendee to use the Q&A tab to post any questions to either Tori or Matt. A few have already come in, but again, please feel free to post your questions now. One question that's come out, is there anything in particular that stands out to consumers in photos and drives more revenue? Maybe that's something for Matt or Tori. Maybe you can both take that.
Sure. Yeah, I'll take that, and then Tori, I'd love to have you to weigh on this as well. And again, what we're seeing in the Curate platform is, and we have well over 700 brands worldwide. So many of the world's most loved and known brands, Target, Nordstrom, Urban Outfitters, the Grommet, of course, are all using Curate to measure and understand how imagery is performing for their business. And one of the things that we're really starting to see is, as I mentioned before, this authentic style imagery. It's this idea that while these accurate style photos, the product on a white background, is important to convey accuracy of what is the product, what does it look like, do I know exactly what I'm buying. What we're actually finding is that the engagement and the traffic and ultimately the revenue more and more is being driven by authentic style imagery. And that can be sourced a couple of ways. One is through your end consumers. So there's a great story of the brand American Girl Doll. American Girl Doll creates these beautiful dolls for little girls, and there's this story of a mother who took this picture of her daughter in front of this historic church, put it up on Instagram, said, oh, look at this great picture of my daughter. Well, through Curate and with the tools we provide, American Girl Doll, the brand, was actually able to reach out directly to that mother and say, oh, this is such a beautiful photograph. Would you mind us using this in some of our marketing campaigns? And the mother, as do 90 to 95% of consumers, said, oh, yes, absolutely. I'm so pleased and proud that you would ask me to use this great image of my daughter holding her American Girl doll in front of this historic church. So what we're finding is that it's a very engaging style of imagery to use, that authentic style. So Tori, any additional thoughts that you'd like to share?
Yeah, so for the grommet, we definitely have seen that when it comes to more of those brand stock photos versus that authentic imagery, the authentic imagery wins every time. And like I mentioned in the slides, we see a higher engagement and revenue with images that show, like I gave the example of hands in a product versus just the product. But also we've noticed that like trying to dive deeper into what type of authentic imagery really resonates, we notice that our strongest images are the ones that clearly show a product in use or demonstrates how it works or what it does. So for us, it's removing that layer of guesswork and being able to let our audience quickly understand a product through that authentic imagery.
Great. Looks like a bunch of questions just popped in. How do you ensure your customers are submitting images that match your brand and are of high quality?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sinan. Matt here, I'll take that. We actually saw that example with Urban Outfitters. So Urban Outfitters was opening up their Instagram and Pinterest and their platform to user-generated content. But what they found early on was that the imagery created by the consumers just wasn't working. It wasn't conveying the voice or the brand identity or the aesthetic of Urban Outfitters. So then what they started to do is they started to curate, or as I like to say, curate, some of the photographs they were getting from users and putting them up on Instagram and saying, hey, this is essentially, they're saying this is the style of imagery that we would like you to create and use. And then over time, what they started to see is the consumers quickly conformed to that. And so what they started to see is the users are generating content that started to match that style and that aesthetic. So that's a great way to kind of encourage your consumers to take that style of imagery by showing them examples and communicating to them how you'd like them to do that. Tori, anything that you could share on that?
That is definitely our path as well, similar to Urban Outfitters. So, we also really are excited to see our products in, we say in the wild, but in the hands of our consumers. And it really is exciting for us to see them celebrate their purchase and show how our products fit into their lives. And so we want them posting to Instagram, to Facebook, to Twitter. We have that hashtag call to action, share your product using hashtag buy differently, and we would like to show it off and feature it. But we did have those same early problems where they just weren't the best quality images, and when we're really focused on curating this really beautiful authentic feed, say on Instagram, we got really excited that we had a lot of submissions, but none of them were just really that great off the bat. So the first thing we did was never ignore, right? So maybe it's a great image that the consumer's super excited to show it off, but it's poor lighting, it's not going to work with our Instagram feed. One thing that I do as a community manager is, although I'm not going to repost it and celebrate them in that big way just yet, I do take a point to send them a direct message, thank them for sharing the photo, and then point them back to our feed where they can get a feel of the images that have sort of made it through, and those that user-generated content that we have refeatured. And so we also have been seeing the bar really upped by our users generating better and better photos each time.
Great. A lot of questions have come in just in that response. So, hi, can you please give me more examples of connecting the imagery content to commerce?
Sure. Yeah, this is Matt here again at Curelate. That's what our business is. That's what we do. What Curelate has done is we can help you, your brand, connect content to commerce, and we do this a number of ways. One is by helping you find that imagery that's out in the wild, present that to you, whether it's coming in from Instagram or user-generated content through some facility that you've set up. And we present this information to you. We ingest your product catalog, and we help you connect the products that you're selling to those images. And sometimes those images come from your partners, sometimes they come from consumers, sometimes they're your own brand photo shoots. But essentially, what Curelate provides is three things. One is workflow tools So as a marketer, we provide you with all the workflow tools to connect those images, all those images to your commerce. Number two is an image repository. So we can connect all those images into this, essentially a database that can then be used to serve up your imagery to the appropriate channel. And then thirdly, distribution. So we can help you take that imagery and place that across all those channels that we talked about, whether it's social or email or display ads or back to your product display pages. We have a number of clients that are using Curelate to bring in user-generated content and display that directly in the PDPs, the product display pages, which we're also seeing help to drive conversions, and Tori is validated as well. So
Matt,
Curelate really is a great platform to do that.
Along those lines, another question, how can you tell us a little more about what services specifically Curelate provides and how the technology is used?
Sure. Well, we'd love to share more with you. If you go to curelate.com, you can check out a demo. You can sign up for someone to give you a call back, and we'll walk you through everything. But just in short, as I mentioned, we have some great workflow tools, the image repository, and the ability to help you with distribution across multiple digital channels to effectively help you connect all your image content to commerce, ultimately driving traffic, engagement, and revenue with your consumers.
Several questions have come up. Will a recording or presentation slides be available after? Yes, this is being recorded and will be edited in final form and available to you via email. Another question, how can hoteliers and hospitality industry use authentic imagery?
Yeah, we work with, here at Curelate, we work with a number of great hotel brands as well. In many cases, it may be the shot of the couple by the pool, or it may be a picture of people eating in the restaurant. A lot of hotel imagery that you see online might be just kind of very static, very disengaging kind of, almost antiseptic kind of photograph of here is a room. Well, I think if you show people in the room, or you show people having a good time, or you show maybe if you have a conference venue, showing a conference in action. I think if you're with a hotel brand, we'd love to talk to you as well, and we work with a number of great brands, and love to share how we're helping them drive bookings through the right kind of and style of imagery that they're using across their brand and their properties.
Two-part question, same person, owner of a very large web presence in the East Coast. So for any online marketing campaign, you're saying that imagery is now a must. To follow to that, what is the best way for businesses that don't sell actual products?
Sure. Well, I think kind of the point that we're making is that the imagery engages the customer, whether you're a B2C business or a B2B business. We even have some clients in the financial services realm that work with Curelate and use imagery to drive more engaging presentation of their content. So at the end of the day, it's really how do you connect that image back to commerce. May not always be a direct sale online. Commerce could also be we want to drive a booking, say if you're a hotel. It may be we want to drive lead generation. We also work with a number of publishers. So there's publishers that we work with that ultimately drive, in their case, commerce is driving traffic back to a news story or a video or a download. So it's really, it's up to you to define, based on your business objectives, where you want to drive those customers or consumers, what destination you want to drive them to. But in any event, Curelate can help you not only create that connection, but also help you measure, analyze, understand, and gain insights from how that's working, how that's happening, to help you improve upon that.
It says, I work for a marketing department for a large industrial firm with an older target audience and having difficulty bridging the gap between generations. Any suggestions as it relates to imagery and the use of that?
Yeah, I would say, what we're finding is that young and old people engage with imagery. So thinking about how do you present your products and services to the audience, whatever the demographic be, whether it's millennials or it's baby boomers. At both ends of the spectrum, what we're finding is that an image will engage an audience. And the question is, what is the style of the imagery? How do you connect that image back to some commerce activity, whether if you're an industrial supplier or you're a consumer brand? In any event, we'd love to talk to you more about how we can help you there. So feel free to check us out at curelate.com. Check out one of our demos there. Drop us a note, and we'd love to speak with you.
Tori, you mentioned that image analytics help you see when an old product is newly trending. Can you share a bit more on how that influences merchandising decisions?
Definitely, and that trending data really gets me excited as a content marketer. And so this really comes into play around making those editorial merchandising decisions around like themes and seasons. So when we notice an upwards trend in certain images, so for example, if we see the images around our baking products are, have a lot of upward movement, they're trending this month, that signals to us that creating a collection or an email or some other, marketing promo around baking and our baking products will likely perform well. So we're getting these signals that this type of product imagery or this type of product theme is resonating with our audience. So the trending data really helps us steer towards, what things people are engaging with organically, and really leverage that in our marketing and merchandising decisions.
Great. Looks like we've got time for just a couple more questions. There are several more questions in here that are really, really specific. But I'm going to just go after a couple more. Tori, can you let me know what kind of imagery works for the mom demographic? Are all channels converting well, and which is the best? Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest. Great question.
For the mom demographic, was that the question?
Yeah.
So, a little bit of that response is going to be anecdotal, since our audience is, both men and women, and a pretty vast age demographic. But I think overall, Pinterest is a really strong channel for us. And so we're really looking at, like I said, we're amping up our efforts and our advertising on Pinterest, all looking at first what images are doing well on that particular channel. And those happen to be the images that have a clear product understanding. So taking that guesswork away, I don't know, as a consumer myself, I find it really annoying when I have to click on an image and go somewhere else to even understand what the product is. So we work really hard at creating these more authentic images, whether it be in the actual photo itself, like one strong photo that gives that great deep product understanding, or using sort of like a collage of photos that bring the product to life. But that's definitely the type of imagery, the images that clearly demonstrate a product or make it very clear how it would fit into your life, seem to do really well for us on Pinterest.
Awesome. Again, there's a bunch of questions that have just popped in. What I'm going to do is just move all these, because they are so specific, for one-on-one follow-ups with both Tori and Matt, because yours are very, very industry specific, or the use specific, that may not be a general question. What I'm going to do is wrap it up with one final question. In short, what as marketers should we be doing and focused on in curating our images and growing our business? Any final thoughts? Why don't we start with Tori and then end with Matt?
Yeah, so I think my biggest call to action for marketers would be to test and then look to see what's working. So I think often as marketers, or the owners of our own businesses, or the person in charge of our content marketing within a business, we tend to do either what we've always done or what we like best. And I think that's sort of a mistake we can make, but a common one. So looking at, what tools can you get your hands on, what analytics are out there, what can you learn from your audience about your imagery, test new things, and see what's resonating.
Great. Matt, some final thoughts?
Yeah, that's great, Tori. I would add to that as well with just experiment. I mean, there's different style of imagery. We all of us in marketing, or generally speaking, we're creative people. We can see imagery that, hey, I like this, I like that. But at the end of the day, we all need to be data-driven. We need to be data-driven marketers. And within the Curate platform, we provide that data to show you, hey, this image is working better than that image. This image is driving this amount of commerce or engagement, and then be able to let you execute on that and say, well, let's take that image and leverage that across a different channel and test it there. So I'd strongly recommend a couple things. One is don't presume that just because an image is working one particular channel, it'll necessarily work in another. And number two is experiment. Try a different style of user-generated content. Maybe try a different style of imagery that might connect better with you. Tori had some great feedback on kind of showing hands or the products in use. If you sell something that engages people, maybe show some imagery from that. And then lastly, I would recommend try different channels and platforms. See what works on Tumblr. See what might happen on Pinterest. Test out Instagram in different ways. Try Facebook. At the end of the day, human beings are visual animals, and I think they'll respond to really amazing visual content. So if you're able to deliver that and measure it, I think you'll do very well for your business.
Awesome. Well, with that, on behalf of the Internet Marketing Association and our partner Curate, we'd like to thank all of our attendees for attending today's webinar, and especially to Tori for her insightful comments and the great thought leadership provided by the Grommet. At this time, we're going to conclude our webinar, and we will follow up with the recording link.
Ready to join the Internet Marketing Association? Membership is free at imanetwork.org/podcast. It takes less than 1 minute to gain access to research, education, and opportunities to move your career forward. Already a member? We'd love to hear your story. Introduce yourself at podcast@imanetwork.org for a chance to be featured on the show. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on I Am a Leader.